Welcome back to the Bejeweled podcast, the podcast that might have the most lopsided two people in the world. Sort of. I'm Joel, I'm Lee Epinephrine 121, and hey, new gaming chair.
And I'm Jiozak, and just today I reached my 30 days. Oh, that is way too bright. I reached my 30-day streak in Duolingo for the first time ever.
Nice. My
Yeah,
30-day is too bright.
Yeah, I've been trying to get back into Spanish.
I see. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we're back with the Bejeweled podcast that's not in Spanish, it's fully in English. Welcome to episode 27. Today's podcast will be about Super Mario Bros. Wonder. It's only been a week, but there has been a lot of people who have finished the game, including this guy down here. So
Yeah,
we're going to be discussing
I
all about
100%
it.
of the game before Monday.
I 100% hit World 1. So, as I mentioned, with two very lopsided perspectives, it's time for us to discuss the best as we can. That's all we can say.
Yup.
Nonetheless, if you're hyped for another podcast, make sure to hit the like button, subscribe our content if you're new, follow Jiozak, all these social handles, they're below him now, and ring that bell to notify anything on our channel. Last podcast, which was the Classic Tetris World Championships 2023 results, on the card up here. So you might notice a bit of a layout change to an extent. I put Jiozak's handles below, and now, hello, there's a proper topic, because I realized, whilst the Bejeweled podcast is like, people can see the topic and all this stuff, I realized to you guys on Twitch, be as obvious. So I thought, you know what, let's actually make it more obvious. It's right here. Plus, I might change it now and then in case we change the actual question. With that said, Jiozak, you ready?
Yes, let's go.
Let's wonder some more, shall we? Let's wonder some more, shall we?
Yeah. I have the gain up on my mic so then it can be farther away, so I really shouldn't raise my voice too much higher than like what it is now, otherwise it will peak.
So with that, oh boy, Super Mario Bros. Wonder. I mean, it's only been a week as we mentioned. Several people already finished the game and found all the secrets, but sure they did. I mean, it's a very unique game that's not the new Super Mario Bros. Series.
Yeah, it's the first 2D side-scrolling platform Mario game that isn't part of the new Super Mario Bros. Series. It's completely separated from that.
Exactly.
And even just that, like learning that was a thing upon this game's announcement, I was like, thank you. I'm glad that the new Super Mario Bros. Series exists, but we need to move on from it, at least like for the new upcoming releases.
Oh, agreed. I wouldn't say it has like overstayed its welcome, but in terms of its naming scheme, they probably really needed a change.
Yeah, like having the word new as a part of the title for Japanese speakers, it really does help to differentiate things, but when it's a very common English name, it's hard for actual English speakers to really specify or like refer to things. So that's why whenever I refer to like in my videos, whenever I refer to like the new Nintendo 3DS systems, I refer to them as the new branded models. So, like, I have to specify that new is part of the branding.
Trust me, it's part of it. It's not like a part. Anyways.
Yeah.
I mean, it's also like for me, right? I mean, knowing that this was not part of the new Super Mario Bros. Series, it definitely meant for me, it's like, oh, a new something. And definitely it's a new something because we no longer have the traditional powers besides one. And it just feels like a new different experience that has no timer.
Yeah, so immediately in some of the footage in the announcement trailer, like that was the first thing that I noticed. It's like, there's no timer. Ooh. Because the timer has always kind of been like a superfluous thing, I feel, in Mario games. Like, I kind of get why it has always been there, but for the most part, especially in the new games, discounting Coin Rush, because the timer actually matters a lot. Just talking about the core gameplay, the timer has not mattered at all in the new Super Mario Brothers series, because they just give you so much time. And so I feel like just completely taking it out, I think, is good, because it allows for level design that encourages more exploration, because you don't have to feel as pressured about going fast, basically. So what do you think about it?
Well, it's funny you mentioned that, because that's kind of the general gist that not only the mass audience would say, but also I saw a post on the internet boasting about how many people, like, they actually mentioned about on an article of how removing a timer has been one of the biggest good things that Mario Wonder brings to the table. One thing for certain, though, I've noticed, and you can completely diverge me if I'm wrong, there are no hidden secret areas in this game, are there?
Specify what you mean by that.
So in New Super, like, for example, especially like in the New Super Mario Brothers 2, Wii U, and especially Luigi U, you know those like secret areas that, like, you know, like don't show but until you like move towards them?
Oh, like in the walls?
Yes, in the walls.
Yes, that is something that I was very attentive of, and especially like replaying, like, I went back the past like day or so, I've been replaying parts of New Super Mario Bros. U. That game especially it's super egregious with hiding secrets in the walls in very arbitrary spots.
And it doesn't get any better with Luigi U, because they get even more obscure.
Yeah, I would have to actually play through both those games again, and I'm planning on doing that, replaying through both new U games. I seem to remember new Luigi U not really hiding a lot of stuff in the walls, or as much. But again, I'm gonna have to go back and see that for myself again, because I'm accessing vague memories from like 4 years ago.
Am I able to bring my opinion? Because I do remember Luigi U quite well.
Yeah.
Okay. For Luigi U, the reason why I say they're more secretive is that whilst New Super Mario Bros. U tends to like give very easy to spot, if not obvious, hints that that such an area exists in a wall, New Super Luigi U does not do that. The most infamous of, or the well-known of them all, is World 1-2, where to get to the secret exit, you need to ground pound a random area that with a signpost, just so you can find a secret pipe, and that leads to the secret exit.
I seem to remember something along those lines. Yeah.
And here's the thing: there's no hint whatsoever that reveals it.
Right, aside from the fact that the signpost is there, which, how many people on their first run through are going to think to ground pound right where that sign is?
Oh, did I mention that every level's 100 seconds, so they're rushing?
Yep.
So it gets even worse. Like, that's why New Super Luigi U, when you're not looking at a guide, is probably one of the hardest games to 100%.
Yeah, although with that constrained time limit, like, the levels are, like, they are different from the normal New Super Mario Bros. U courses.
Yep.
And so because of that, like, they were built with the limited time limit in mind.
Yeah. I might have to go back to the game, honestly, now that I'm more thinking about it. It actually was quite fun playing those.
Yeah, it was a really good, like, challenging diversion for the series. But God, what was I forgot.
You want to talk more about Wonder, like the secret areas?
Yeah. Wonder does not use any sort of like hidden wall nonsense. It's basically just out there in the open. You just have to figure out how to access whatever secret it might be. Yeah, that was one thing I was very acutely attentive of, and yeah, they completely did away with that, and I'm very much so happy about that.
I actually noticed this straight away. I was playing World. I was looking around. I was just like, wait, no hidden wall, and that's where I kind of came to the implication that there were no hidden wall areas anymore. Which again, I agree with you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, and that's honestly probably one of the big reasons why I was able to power through and 100% the game in that first weekend, is now, like, once I realized that, oh, they're not hiding things in the walls, I didn't have to go, like, pressing up against every single wall that I could find and that I could suspect that there was something behind. I could just play the levels.
And anything that just looks suspicious, you can try.
Yeah.
That is much better, like, feeling of the game, in my opinion, and I think you can agree on that.
Oh yeah, it makes the placement of those secrets a lot more organic and a lot just better to look for and collect. It feels like you're not playing this asinine game of hide and seek. It's like, oh, I actually did something of worth to find this. Like, I know, like, I have the game pulled up, and I have the level list. There is, like, one course where, I'm not going to specify what course this is, but, it's about halfway through the game, but, I realized, oh, there's, like, a wilted plant, and, like, over, like, to the left in this one certain area are these pots with water. And so you're supposed to grab one of those pots, do a bit of platforming with that level's mechanic.
I'll be right back.
That I think it introduces for the first time in that level halfway through the game. I'm not going to spoil what mechanic it is, but it was interesting to see it in an actual 2D Mario game, I'll say that. And then you bring the pot of water to this wilted plant, and then it spawns the one of the 10 flower coins, because that's the main collectible, or the star coin equivalent in this game is the 10 flower coin.
Yep.
So yeah, just being able to kind of approach things a little more like organically, I guess, is the word that I'm going with. Yeah, just knowing that they didn't hide anything in the walls just made exploration just feel better in general, and no timer. So I know you're not super far in the game yet, so
Yeah, but I was wondering, I only made it to I only finished World 100%, and that's why admittedly I really can't really give too much input, let alone Jiozak can't put too much of spoilers. So it's just like,
yeah,
also,
I'm trying to be cautious of that.
Yeah, exactly. Also, I don't know why this is not triggered on my channel, but Vixen_P, thank you so much for the follow. Welcome to the Journey Army. Hope you enjoy your stay. We are discussing about Super Mario Brothers Wonder, if you're wondering. Excuse me. How many puns can we make with Wonder accidentally?
Oh, I wonder.
Oh, dear. Funny thing was that the last podcast, number 24, Jiozak actually edited it. Now I might have to ask him to edit how many puns we all made.
Oh my gosh.
No, I'm not going to ask you to do that much work, don't worry.
I know. Yeah.
But I mainly went now because I realized I forgot to get my 3DS. Also, I need to do something real quick because this has been bothering me for the longest time. Much better. All right. So with that said, though, I guess we can move on to the next thing is that first impressions, because whilst the game definitely shows some promise, like, what did we think of it at first?
So if I'm talking about the very first couple seconds of me booting up the game, straight off the bat, I actually had 2 nitpicks. The title screen is a little bit dull, which is kind of funny because even the title screen of New Mario U and Luigi U was more dynamic.
They were animated,
yeah. Even if it was just the playable characters walking to the right, there was still that movement and all of that. And then also 1 save slot per Switch user. I don't like it when games do that.
Oh, you're right. You know what? I actually didn't realize that. Oh, dear.
Yeah, so for those who really don't follow me on Twitter, especially, I like to replay through Mario games. Like, every so often, I just end up picking one and replaying it. So having multiple save slots for me is... like, it's kind of a necessity.
Yeah.
So that does bring up a couple options, and I kind of went through these on Twitter. Yeah, there is the thought of, oh, you can just reload your save and replay the levels through that. It's not the same. Like, it's a very different vibe and mindset even. Essentially just doing the levels in free play versus actually playing the game over again. Like, it's very different. There's that. I could also use an alternate Switch profile in order to play it, but then that playtime will not be counted towards my main Switch profile if it's on a different profile. And because most of my playtime in, say, New Super Mario Bros. U Deluxe is replaying the main games several times over, that's why I have 125 hours logged. So if I were to do that across multiple users, it's not going to count that just as an overall total. So I think in the future, if I want to replay through the game and have it count on my Switch user, is turn off cloud saves for Mario Wonder specifically, because you can turn it on and off per game. So I do that, so then my 100% save is backed up to the cloud, delete the save on my Switch, and replay it like that. But then that means if I ever want access to my original 100% file, I have to completely get rid of whatever in-progress file I was doing. So no matter what I choose, there's something that is a mild irritant to me.
Yeah, I mean, now that you mention it, that definitely is a strange option that Nintendo went for with this game. I mean, I myself haven't really seen much of the disbenefit yet, so it's a funny thing that you mention it, but now that you mention it, yeah, that's definitely a weird decision they decided to come up with.
Yeah.
As for gameplay on my end, I mean, I really enjoy the idea of no timer. Like, when I honestly, it took me a while to realize it, let alone actually seeing the news article actually made me realize, oh yeah, no timer. I'm actually exploring a lot more than I used to.
Yeah. Yeah, because there isn't that pressure, you can just go through it at whatever speed you want.
So that brings up the question, would it have been better if... Actually, wait. Actually, no, never mind. I was about to say, like, whether the hidden wall areas plus no timer would have been better, but then again, you mentioned how it would just turn into an absolutely weird hide and seek.
Yeah.
And it wouldn't be as fun.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Because as we've seen in certain videos, hide and seek is better with a time limit.
Yep. I'm trying to think of what videos you're referring to.
Preston.
I thought you said depression.
What? Excuse me?
I was like, okay.
Excuse me?
What are you talking about?
Preston.
Preston. I still don't know what you're talking about.
Jeez, I might have to educate you, my friend. 25 million subscribers strong. Early days in 2019, 2020, 2021, he was doing a lot of hide and seek.
Okay, like in real life?
Yes.
No, I'm kidding.
Wait, what?
Okay.
I just realized the question. And he also has like most of his family also doing YouTube. His wife Brianna, his sister Keely. He also has several other channels that he does reactions on, gaming on, etc. So I remember like 2019, 2021, he was doing a lot of hide and seek. He even did hide and seek at the Gaylord Hotel, if you're wondering.
Oh wow.
So that's what came to mind. Depressed.
Depreston.
Hi, Utopia. How you doing?
Oh, how's it going?
Dear. That might, you might have to highlight that once this is up.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
But yeah, no, that's why I kind of like with Super Mario Brothers 1, just the idea that I'm able to just explore more, and it gives me more freedom, and it is nice to have that. Let alone, I mean, as you mentioned, the 3-coin aspect of for every level still kept, but now the coins have meaning. It's not like, oh, just for collectible. This actually has a meaning.
Yeah, you use the flower coins in order to buy badges and the all-new standees at Poplin shops. That I think there's at least one in each world. I believe.
I would assume so. It kind of reminds me, and part of me bringing up a fan game, but it probably reminds me of newer Super Mario Brothers Wii that was made by the newer team. And oh jeez, I think he's gonna kill me that I don't remember his name. It's been a while that I remember it. Skawo? Yes, Skawo.
Yes.
Man, to think that, you know what? Not to think about it, that game is 10 years old now.
Wow.
What? Jeez. But yeah, for those not to know, newer Super Mario Brothers Wii was a project made by Skawo and the newer team. Yes, they're literally called the newer team. That actually is basically just like a rendition of New Super Mario Brothers Wii with new enemies, new gameplay mechanics, and all that stuff. It's out for the Wii, for those wondering, so you have to port the Wii so you're able to play that game. And what I remember from the game is that in each world there was also a shop there you can buy power-ups.
Okay.
And you actually use the star coins to buy those power-ups.
Oh, that's cool.
So I feel like that's very similar, but of course now we're using a different currency other than star coins.
Yeah, so along with the main like 3 10 flower coins that are in each level, you'll find just a denomination that is just 1 flower coin. In the normal like main levels in wonder segments, you'll find like 1/10 piece flower coins. I don't actually know what the proper name for those are.
Is this the first time that a 2D Mario game uses decimals?
Probably. I remember looking at footage of Smash Ultimate back when that was like when they were just showing new gameplay for that, and immediately it was like, there's a 10th place in the damage percentage. Okay.
Oh yeah, it's true. Maybe Nintendo is trying to promote education?
Maybe. Let's see. Yeah, I'm pulling up the wiki to see what the It looks like the name for those 10th pieces is just smaller variants. There's no like actual name for them yet.
Ah.
I'll just refer to them as a 10th piece.
Flower pens? I don't know.
Flower petal.
That actually makes sense, actually. Because it's
Yeah.
like part of the flower. That wouldn't be a bad name if they end up naming it that, of course.
Yeah.
Back to the original impressions. I mean, the one thing I also realized is that now they kind of made Super Mario Bros. Wonder the 2D 3D world. And the reason why I say that is that no two areas, not say two levels, but no two areas in the world are the same. Like in just World 1, you know what, I can actually spoil World 1 because I think most of us already played World 1. In World 1 alone, there's a rocky area, a poison area, and a regular forest area at the same time. And it just feels like, whoa, this is kind of spread out and quite vast, like what's going on.
Yeah, and that kind of plays into something that we were messaging each other about earlier this week, is each world has like more levels in it, or at least it feels like it has more levels in it compared to a standard world in like a new Super Mario Brothers game.
I can guarantee right now that is, because think about it, with World 1, if you look back to New Super Mario Bros. U, there were like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 levels, which would equate to 21 star coins. I'm pretty sure I collected way more than 21 flower coins in World 1 alone. Pretty sure.
Yeah.
Does it also help that every level does not have the same number of wonder seeds, so they can be very vast, let alone very creative with the level designs. You don't always have to create it such that 3 things can be hidden.
Yeah, so like each normal level has 3 10 flower coins, and a normal a normal level has 2 wonder seeds, one that you get at the end of a wonder segment, and one for finishing the level. But if a course has a second exit, you'll get a second wonder seed for getting that exit. So it's also ends up kind of being a nice way of keeping track of what levels have alternate exits. I'm not gonna say what level it is, but there was a level in World 1 that I wasn't aware that it had a alternate exit until I started looking up, like, okay, how do you get the check mark behind the information on the course select screen? So, if you didn't know, for those watching, if you hit the L button when you're in the main overworld, brings up a course list of all the courses that you've already played. Behind where it shows the top of the flagpole, the wonder seeds and the flower coins, if you see like a faint like stamp with a check mark, that means you've gotten everything in the level. There was one level that did not have that, and I did everything else. And I was very confused, like, oh, is this a glitch? But no, I started looking it up, and it's like, oh, no, there's just an alternate exit that I missed. Let's go back and find it.
I actually noticed it straight away. I was like, wait, why is that not checked? And then I just went back. I was like, oh, wait, secret exit. I actually managed to find it by myself. The hilarious thing, though, side story, though, is that I remember by the time I was about to reach the castle, I was just like, how many wonder seeds are in World 1? So I looked it up. The number was 1 more than what I had.
Oh.
So that means the only thing I had left was the castle. It also just felt like there was way more incoming, though. That's why I wanted to check. Then I realized, oh wait, I'm actually finally done with World 1. Yippee.
Yeah, funnily enough, I'm paging through some later worlds. There's to... Well, there's a couple later worlds that actually have less Wonder Seeds than World 1.
Thank goodness. I was honestly concerned about that.
Yeah, World 1 starts you off pretty strong. It's like, wow, there's just so much going on.
Yeah. Part of me asking this too, I just realized, is this the first ever 2D game that actually counts your top of the flagpoles?
2D game? Yes. Yes, because it's only ever been 3D Land and 3D World that have counted the tops of the flagpole as 100%.
So for those wondering, 100% of a level is top of the flagpole, all wonder seeds, and all flower coins. That's how you 100% the level, and then you get the check mark.
Yep. And thankfully, it ends at that, which is great considering some of the stuff in the new Super Mario Bros. Games. Like, if you... Well, I guess this doesn't negate your completion for that specific level, but this is another thing that I'm glad that they changed. There is no super guide at all.
Thank goodness.
Yeah, which in the previous games, if you died too much in a certain level, this super guide block would appear, or whatever the equivalent in whatever game. And it varied from game to game if just that block appearing just negated your save file from true 100% completion, or if actually engaging with it negated your true 100% completion. Wonder does not have any bullcrap like that. If you die a lot in a level, you just lost a lot of lives. That's it. Even if you play as one of the Yoshis or Nabbit, which is technically the easy mode, or if you use some of the more beneficial badges, it still treats completion the same, which I am thankful for, because the more hardcore players are just not going to use any of those to begin with. So I'm glad that they did not implement any sort of true completion negation.
I like
basically.
to point out, by the way, it would be kind of dumb if they actually did consider badge usage as a part of 100% or like negation of 100%, because some levels actually force you to use the badge to complete it.
Right.
So it wouldn't make any sense whatsoever if that was the case, but thankfully it isn't. And I really like the fact that some of the levels actually ask you to use the badges to try them out. So it's not only just, oh, I mean, you could just use them wherever you want. No, you actually have to use them to complete the levels, and it's quite fun, some of the badges.
Oh yeah, like, having all of these different, like, special levels that force you to use a specific badge, I just want them to, like, make an extra pack of challenge levels like that, and just, like, give it to us in a free update. Even if it's just, like, a dozen extra challenges, like, I would be game for that.
I wouldn't mind. Okay, this might sound a bit too audacious, but I want them to try and also make, like, levels where you change a badge mid-level.
Yeah, that would be cool. Maybe, like, you could pick two badges, even.
There we go.
Like, you could
Oh no, they select for you the badges, basically, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you ask the player to choose, it's a bit tricky sometimes, especially knowing that if you were to ask a player who is 100% in the game to try out those levels and you ask them to choose the badges, boy, there are way too many badges to choose from. It will just be a guess and check game.
Right.
So let them choose let the game choose the badges for them, and then just let them swap one out whenever they need to in order to complete certain obstacles. That'd be kind of cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, or even, like, yeah.
So that's what I quite like. By the end of World 1, I mean, the story was quite obvious to me and I understand it fully, and it's quite interesting, I would say, to be able to, like, you know, for them to be in a different kingdom, firstly, so that at least we know that the Mushroom Kingdom's not affected, let alone just have new, like, enemies and characters. It looks as though they are not done yet with new designs, which I think we're grateful for.
Oh yeah, like World 1 is really just the beginning.
Can't wait.
Yeah, and once you finish up with World 1, you don't go to World 2 right away. You go to this
Ring.
I think the term would be an archipelago.
Yeah,
like a
that'll be
series of
correct.
islands called Petal Isles, and it's actually an area that I'll mention this. It's an area that you come back to between every world.
Yeah,
And-
I honestly guessed it.
Yeah, and it's kind of funny because looking at the levels, like, a lot of these are water levels. They still had a water world in the game, but because a lot of people don't like water levels, they spread it out over the course of the game. And Petal Isles essentially ends up being its whole, like, separate world. In the course list, like, it has enough courses in it that, yeah, it constitutes as its own, extra world.
Yeah.
So it's, once I realized what they were doing with that, it's like, okay, yeah, I see you being clever, spreading out water levels. So, but there is more than water levels. Like, that's not the only thing. There's some underground.
Please don't make the game sound like Omega Ruby Alpha Sapphire.
No, it's not too much water.
I'm glad you remember what talk up.
7.8 out of 10. Yeah, it's... I think it's a really smart way of still incorporating a water world without it being an actual world, because you only play, like, 2-3 levels before going to the next world. So...
Yeah. And then again, like, it was not like when there's a water world, it's like completely water. I mean, if you look at, for example, New Super Brothers U, when you look at, this is gonna test my memory, Sparkling Waters.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that one is like fully water, but it's not like everything is swimming. Like, some of them you just go above the water with all the water spouts.
Right. Right. Now that I'm thinking about it, the, doesn't... I think it's World 3 in New Mario 2 that goes from a water world into a jungle world, like, halfway through. I seem to remember, because it is,
I don't
actually,
remember that well, but considering there were only 6 main worlds in that game, I would not put that past.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was, World 3, 4, that, if you're playing Coin Rush, is kind of the golden course to max out your counter. And I seem to remember earlier in World 3, there being, like, actual water levels, so... Yeah, and World 3, 4 is more jungle-themed than it is, like, water or beach-themed, anyways.
That's so cool. But I think... Would you say this game pretty much has liberated, like, the idea of level design in a Mario game?
Yeah, I mean, we really haven't talked about the Wonder Flowers, mostly because, like, I really haven't mentioned anything because spoilers. But...
I mean, we could talk just a bit about it, like, all the more. Like, just the idea of being able to, like, you know, be absolutely wacky, if that makes sense.
Yeah, like, the Wonder Flowers are very much, like, signifying that, like, hey, we are going to break your preconceived notions of, like, what you would think would be in this stage and do something completely different. And even though, like, there are some repeating wonder effects, when they are repeated, they do something different with it. compared to the first time that they used that same wonder effect, to still have something that's relatively, like, new and fresh. So, if I saw something that was repeating, it didn't feel stale. It felt like I noticed that, oh, hey, this was from this other level, but they're doing something a little bit different with it, so I didn't really mind.
Yeah.
Although there are some later wonder effects that only ever appear once, and some of them it's like, okay, yeah, this is really cool. I'm not gonna spoil any of them because they need to be experienced firsthand.
Like the hot ones. No, I'm just joking.
Yeah.
They have the new sauce called Hot Ones Experience. That's why I'm just said that. I think it's like 90% of the newest, hottest pepper in the world now, which I think stands at 2.39 million Scoville.
I don't really eat spicy stuff. I feel like if I were to have even some of the more moderate sauces or that they have on hot ones, I feel like I would just die. I don't know. I don't have tolerance for spice built up. So
Understandable.
Yeah,
not everyone can do it. I could do it to extent, but not really all the way. So it's fine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like standard American cuisine really does not have much of any spice. So I've never really been, experienced to like actual spice outside of I think it's a Japanese place that's nearby. I've eaten from there a good handful of times, and the spice that they put on there, you could specify the same spice level on like every day of the week and it would still be a different spice level. So just depends on who's in the kitchen.
Oh dear. So they consistent.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
That's
anyways.
All right, yeah, spice aside, now next thing I want to talk about is the comparison, because we mentioned earlier how the differences between SMBW and the new Super Mario Bros. Series. So the question is does it stack up well, or is it even Steven?
I think the level, like, design and just overall feel and vibe of Wonder is just overall more fun to explore and interact with. Although, in a sense, I prefer the level design of, like, say, New Mario U, because even right off the bat, things are a little bit more technically challenging. Even then, it's not a whole lot. But, like, right off the bat in World 1 of Wonder, it's like, okay, I've barely even gotten hit from enemies. It just feels like I'm breezing through every level. Later levels, not so much, but just comparing, like, the starting levels of Wonder versus, like, New U, it definitely is easier, but it does actually end up balancing out later on to being about the same as previous games in terms of difficulty. But even then, the levels are still fun to explore and interact with. Yeah.
So
what do you think of them so far?
So you're saying to the casual player, it may be a bit too easy of a game.
For a casual player, it might actually be perfect, especially because, like, the Mario movie came out earlier this year, so there's a non-zero amount of people that are playing this as their very first Mario game.
Yeah.
But for experienced players like myself, it starts out, like, in terms of difficulty, like, relatively easily. Now, yes, there are some more difficult levels that you can end up stumbling across, even in World 1, if you go off the beaten path a little bit, but even then, it's not super difficult. Just takes a couple tries.
Yeah.
But like I said, once it gets to the late game stages, it does end up balancing out relatively to be like relatively the same level as New Mario U. Maybe even just like a touch easier, but even then, the gap is very small.
Ah.
Because I did pay attention to how many lives I lost on the hardest levels in Mario Wonder, and then I went back a day or two ago and replayed through the entire special world of New Mario U. It was about the same amount of lives that I lost in both, like, total. So, and I haven't touched the main game of New Mario U in forever, so yeah, ends up kind of being about the same. I've said that like 5 times at this point.
For me, I mean, as if you guys already know, I only played like a very few of it. But as for me, right, when I look at the Super Mario Bros. Wonder series, it's a breath of fresh air. Like, I know that's a cliche thing to say when there's a new game coming out, but to be honest, it just feels as though there's just so many things that are changed to where to the casual player, it's like, oh, it's a new experience, as you mentioned, like, especially for those who are newer to the franchise. But if you talk about to the experienced player, it's just like, hey, let me change everything you know about Mario.
Yeah.
And it's something about difference that really sparks a player's interest. And I feel like with this game, Mario Nintendo already hit the nail on the head. The only thing I would say is that sometimes it just fits a bit too much of change. I'm not too sure about you, but it feels a bit too much at times. I'm not saying every time, but sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that there is a Wonder Flower and therefore Wonder Effect in every main level.
Yeah.
It does feel like maybe a bit too much. Like, you could have had just some standard levels in there, or even levels where you have to, like, really look for where the Wonder Flower is, so you end up essentially having to play through the same level twice and have it. And they could have had it to where the level design is like drastically different between both forms. But for the most part, like, you can collect all the main collectibles in a single, like, playthrough of a level, including, like, activating the Wonder Flower, getting that Wonder Seed, and finishing off the level. Now, granted, you'll have to go through it a second time if there's an alternate exit, but even then, it's like, it feels like they could have been a touch more sparing with the Wonder Flower. Like, either have some levels without it, or some levels where it's more well hidden and you have to look for it. Yeah. So. I don't remember if this is in World 1. Let me look. Okay, it's not in World 1. This must get introduced in World 2. Maybe? No. No, it is introduced in World 2. Have you done one of the search party levels?
Not yet.
Okay, I'll say this, they are the worst part of the game. Yeah. If you haven't played them yet, all I'll say is that it is hands down the worst part of the game. Thankfully, they're relatively quick to go through if you know what you're doing. That's all I'll say.
Interesting. So you're telling me there are some Captain Toad Brigade levels in the game?
Yeah, think of Captain Toad, but not good level design.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I can just, like, if it's fine, I can talk about what they are, because you're, like...
I'll find out for myself.
Okay. I'll say this. It's probably the only times in my playthrough where I had to turn on online play, so then I could, get hints from other players in real time.
Hey, I'll be right back.
Yeah. Yeah, that's all I'll say. Yeah, other than that, it's, everything else was just very good, albeit sometimes, yeah, it feels like they could have put in some more levels that didn't have the Wonder Flower. So, yeah.
Interesting. I guess the other thing I would like to point out, I mean, you mentioned about the life system. I'll be honest, it feels very strange knowing I can buy lives.
Yeah.
For me, right, honestly, I realized to myself, wait, I can have 70 lives by World 2 by just buying. Because I didn't feel as though the flower requires me anything else. I remember there was some levels I kept replaying just because I couldn't get certain things. Oh, especially that first special world level. Although I did manage to beat it. It was just a bit trickier to do than others, but I had to restart it now and then. Then the thing is that I think the flower coins kind of save as well whenever you die, so it's like...
Yeah, so I guess that's another point that is kind of contributes to the overall difficulty of the game. So in previous 2D Mario games, if you collected, say, a star coin and then lost a life, you would have to then recollect that star coin. But just like the Switch port of 3D World, getting a collectible in Wonder, like, it's locked in. You've collected it, even if you lose a life. Now, granted, if you exit out of the level before completing it, you do have to recollect anything that you grabbed in that run through. And I feel like that does make things a little bit easier even in the later stages. Because some of these later stages, I was replaying them, and it's like, how on earth would you be able to collect all of these flower coins in one go if they didn't save between lives? It almost seems like these levels were designed... Well, yeah, it very much feels like these levels were designed with that, like, saving in mind. Yeah. Yeah, it makes things easier, and I suppose if you're a hardcore player, you could still force yourself to collect all of them all in one go.
Yeah.
Still, it feels like it makes some special world stages a little easier than they really could have been.
Yeah, agreed.
Namely the second one. You'll see what I mean.
Oh, no. Okay, well, no. But still,
yeah.
I mean, overall, when I look at the series, right, I'll keep interrupting my point. I just realized. But when I look at the Super Mario Brothers Wonder, I also realized that it just feels like there's more liberty in gameplay. Like, I feel as though I can, like, not only just look around, but also try to experiment with different stuff as well. Like, if you're wondering, I only just found the bubble flower.
Oh, yeah, because that doesn't get introduced till World 2.
Yeah, and, I mean, it's kind of an interesting idea. Some might say, oh, it's just trying to repeat from the baby Yoshi from New Super Mario Bros. U. But at the same time, I'll be honest, knowing there's a new kingdom, they kind of had to do it. Plus, at least it's something you know you don't necessarily have to lose on purpose.
Right. Speaking of the Wonder Flower, that actually ended up being my favorite power-up.
The bubble flower?
Yes.
Ooh.
Yes, because it's like a fire flower that works through walls.
Oh, dude, I love that.
Yeah.
Honestly, when I looked at that, I was like, what they will do with that?
Yeah, because the bubbles can go through walls. It can defeat enemies that are on the other side of walls. And not just that, but it's also a fire flower that can be used against enemies that are more airborne, essentially.
Indeed.
Because, like, the bubbles are bubbles, therefore they float. Instead of fireballs that bounce along the ground.
Yeah.
They're way more effective, excuse me, against airborne enemies. And there's a good number of those in Wonder.
Yep, there are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I guess did we want to talk about the power-ups?
I mean, not necessarily. I feel like more. I mean, everyone knows the elephant. Trying not to say too much. Trying not to say anything about the drill because I haven't really experienced it yet.
It's all right.
And then there's the bubble, of course.
Yeah.
But honestly, when I looked at the bubble flower, I immediately just my thought was like, what can they do with this? Because that just opens up so many ideas of level designs.
Yeah. Let's see. Yeah. It feels genuinely like a more versatile fire flower because it's actually effective against airborne enemies. I keep repeating like my same points, but I mean that's why I like the bubble flower.
Elephant is also quite nice. I actually did not realize it can break blocks. Like, for those who did not follow me on Twitter, I actually posted like me using a shell to break through a certain blocks in order to get to the secret exit of that level. And I just posted like, is this how I'm supposed to do it? Then Jiozak just came to me saying, you probably should have used the elephant. I'm like, oh.
Yeah, like, when I saw that on my playthrough, it's like, oh, okay, I'm gonna go grab some elephant apples and come back and, like, redo this level. So that's how I did it.
I did not even realize there were apples until you said it.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah.
But yeah, no, I mean, I just love the design and all that stuff. That's why it just feels so good and nice to play. If there's one thing I'll admit, it feels good knowing I don't have to rush. Like, really, I keep emphasizing so many points, but really, it honestly feels good. And I feel like I just take my time with this game. And there are times that honestly where it just feels like I need to take a break or something, but I don't have to like pause the level anymore.
Yeah.
So speaking of pausing, I will confess I don't really like the fact that you can reset a level even if it's your first time playing.
Why exactly do you feel that way?
I kind of like the challenge that is like, you know, first playthrough, like try to get through it, all that stuff. I rather don't. It kind of feels a bit cheap knowing you can just reset.
Yeah, especially like considering that it I'm pretty sure it resets you back to the same state you started the level at, so power-ups and all.
Yeah.
In that regard, yeah, I do understand the sentiment, although it came in handy for a handful of levels at least for one reason or another.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, it just feels a little bit too easy now, just to reset whenever you do something wrong.
Yeah, it actually made. I feel like it makes sense considering the badge system, because if you hit reset, yeah, you start back at the beginning of the level, but you can change your badge, and that was one reason why I may have used that feature in the pause menu, is so then I could change to a different badge.
I mean, they also do it when you die, don't they?
Yeah.
So it's kind of pointless at that point.
Yeah. It's like I can definitely see why you're not really a fan of the idea. I just ended up using it kind of without thinking. It's like, oh yeah, of course you can reset the level. But then I went back to New Mario U and it's like, oh, you can't do that. You have to either quit the level or just tank a life and deal with those consequences.
It doesn't help when the game gives you lives like candy.
Right.
That just defeats the whole point of, like, you know, not being able to reset a level. That's why I don't really like the new amalgam that they made with this.
Yeah.
It just feels a bit too easy.
Now that I'm thinking about it, didn't 3D World let you reset levels even on your first run through? Am I remembering that correct?
You can't be airborne if you want to reset, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, there's that, but if you're on solid ground,
I think you actually could.
Yeah.
Someone can correct that.
I'm opening up the game just to test this.
Okay, good. Solid information, ladies and gentlemen. Concrete evidence. But other than that, I mean, it's not saying it's a bad game. It's fun, and I feel like for the kids, it's a very kid-friendly game in so many aspects. Where you're not only like making it like fun to see, you also make it fun and easy to like play. The animation is also like honestly like very cute at times.
The what exactly?
The animation also
Sorry.
It feels a bit cute at times. The gameplay.
Yeah. I mean, just all the little animations. And actually, before I continue, yes, you can restart levels in 3D World on Switch, even on your first run through.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially like all the little animations of things that did not have bespoke animations in the new games. Like, even just entering and exiting pipes. There's all these different little animations for, like, every character. Like, there's that. Did you know you can throw fireballs when you're crouching now? Yeah, and the animation for that is mildly humorous because it's just the crouched character. They're completely still, but you see their hand go.
Just for that description alone, that definitely sounds comical.
Yeah.
It has that charm, yeah.
Yeah, even just interacting with the game in general, it just feels fun. And I think that's what they were aiming for, like, first and foremost, and I really think they excelled with that. It's just that, yeah, going into the nitty-gritty of, like, difficulty stuff is like, yeah, you kind of end up splitting hairs to some extent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It just feels that way, and it just feels like enjoyable to play. I can't wait to see like what the kids can do, honestly, with just the fun they can have. Let alone, I think we haven't even mentioned about it. The one very big thing that people say, oh, like I don't know, one video completely complained about it, but I'm just like, bruh, I think it's time they changed it. And that is no more collision between players in multiplayer.
Yes.
Thank goodness for that.
Yes. Yeah, for more than one reason, honestly, because, yeah, for one, it makes it much more difficult for the other players to, like, mess with you, and they actually have, like, you can still troll each other, you just have to be more smart about it. So not only that, but because there's no player collision, and, like, you pass by each other, that means the level design is not going to be compromised for single player. It can still feel just as, like, tight and solid for a single player versus 4, because you don't have to compensate for a single person as well as 4 different people that are bumping into each other.
That's very true. That does open up the liberty for level design because of that, and I think that's why this game kind of excels in, like, you know, very creative level designs all around.
Yeah, and, like, going back for a little bit to New Mario and Luigi U, the level designs do feel like noticeably more open, and I even went back to New Mario Wii because I have the ability to emulate it with actual Wii remote. I've been playing it a little bit on and off over the week. New Mario Wii is especially egregious with how open and empty the levels feel at times. Because it has to compensate for 4 players that can bump into each other.
Well, here's the interesting thing, like to point out. People actually mentioned how U is more conducive for multiplayer compared to Wii.
Yeah, which is interesting.
Honestly, I agree with them. It just feels as though there's less like possibility of death, and there's a lot more open spaces. Now, of course, as you mentioned, yeah, the level design is a bit like less. A little more rigid because of that, but admittedly, it's not like the game is bad by any means overall. There's still creative, like, mechanics, designs, secrets, all the stuff.
Right,
It's just that now that they are saying, you know what, let's do away with this mechanic, at least they don't have to worry about, oh, will multiplayer mess this thing up, quote unquote. They don't have to worry about that anymore. Oh, and also no more cheating with using someone as a bait.
Exactly, yeah. Or like jumping off of each other's heads.
But
like,
even then,
yeah.
Do you agree with that World 1 honestly feels very bottomless pitless?
Yeah, a little bit.
It feels as though, like, honestly, I always felt like playing Sonic CD.
Yeah, it didn't really feel like there was any way to lose lives outside of getting hit by enemies. Which, again, even in, like, New Mario U, I think even in, like, the first level, yeah, there's at least 1 or 2 bottomless pits.
Yeah.
And the second level is underground, and there's noticeably more.
Yeah,
even if it's a little
more.
Yeah, even if it's a little bit more difficult to, like, accidentally fall in, considering how things are laid out. But even then, it's like, they're there, compared to Wonder, where it's almost feels kind of like it's kind of cushioning the player to some extent, in that regard, but again, difficulty balances out later on.
Yeah. It definitely feels that way. And then, as an overarching sense, it just feels good to see. I mean, it's refreshing to see a new 2D Mario game. Like, this is 10 years since New Super Mario Brothers series like ended, quote unquote, with Luigi U. So we can't really go too deep into, oh, is this the best game yet, ever yet? Honestly, because recency bias is a huge factor, and I feel like a lot of people would be saying Wonder straight away. It's just gonna take a few more months, in my opinion, for people to be able to bring their true, honest opinions without concerning, like, you know, oh, this game came out so recently, I like it. What do you think of that, actually?
Yeah, it's kind of the similar thing of, like, when Odyssey came out, or, like, Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom came out. Like, yeah, when a game first comes out, you're like, oh, this game surpasses all the other games in the series, like, this is hands down the best one. But as time went on, people were able to kind of, like, take some time away from it, and then maybe come back and realize things about it that maybe were not as like, they weren't
Polished.
up to the, or, like, the standard that they had set in their minds, which is a good reason why, if you really want to have a solid opinion about a piece of media, don't base it off of just a single run-through. Like, if it's a movie, watch it at least twice, with, at the very least, a couple days between viewings. Or, with a game, play it through once, shelve it for a while, then come back to it sometime later, so then you can see if all of the thoughts and feelings that you had the first run through still hold up, or if it was just recency bias. Yeah, that's something that I've really been like it's just part of how I consume a lot of media, and it has been for a while. Like, if I've just played through or seen something once, it's like, okay, I have to take that into consideration because that was only a single exposure to it. And if I want to have an actual, like, fully fleshed out opinion, I should play through this game or whatever a second time at least. That was kind of what I ended up doing with the Portal games, because last year they came out on Switch, and several years ago, back in 2017, is when I played through them for the first time. And then I played through both of them last year, and it's like, yeah, they still hold up. They're still great games. So.
Hey, IGN, take notes. Sorry.
When it comes to, like, doing game reviews as your job, it is kind of difficult to do a second exposure because you're probably already on, like, a tight timetable and, like, tight deadline for getting your review out. So it's like, in some regard, it's understandable, but that's why I don't really take launch reviews too much at face value. Like, you have to take into consideration that this thing is still new, and people are going to be excited about the new shiny, and you have to wait for that newness and shininess to kind of wear off to some extent to really, like, actually, like, look at the game in any sort of critical light.
Agreed.
Which, in a sense, is kind of why this episode kind of ended up being delayed by a week for, basically, I forgot that I had family coming up, Friday of last week. So it's like, yeah, can we, postpone this a week? And so it ended up actually kind of being good because it let me play through the game completely and take some time away from it as well.
Yeah, that's true.
So,
all right. Next, now that we put the comparison aside, next thing I want to talk about is the potential DLC. And the reason why I want to bring that up is that whilst it was eventually part of the full package later on, we had to consider if Super Brothers Wonder might actually have a DLC similar to an SMBU.
I hope so.
We definitely did discuss potential where, like, different badges, levels that utilize badges, etc. But what else could they do?
Yeah, maybe kind of turning things a little bit more on its head and still, like, going the same direction of New Luigi U in the sense that it's more difficult. Maybe in the sense of, like, maybe in some core levels, it forces you to use a specific badge. Just as off-the-head example. Not saying it's a good idea, but it's an idea. Like, that as an idea, or, like, using the base of Wonder to make levels that are more mechanically challenging, I think it would be a great addition.
For me,
yeah.
I mean, I see the potential, as well from not only just that, but maybe possible other playable characters. I mean, Daisy, of all people, is playable. Why not others?
Yeah, I guess there's the obvious question mark, choices of Wario and Waluigi. But, like, outside of that, what other characters?
Rosalina, possibly.
Oh, yeah.
Who else has been? Wait. Different colored toads?
Pauline.
I don't know. Wait, what?
Pauline?
Pauline, possible, yeah?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there are some characters like what we just mentioned that they could add, but I'm not sure if they would add new characters, potentially. I mean, I'm not saying that I don't want it. I'm just saying that I don't see it happening if they were to add some sort of expansion to Wonder.
Definitely not. You know, the first thing another thing just came to mind? Bring back certain power-ups.
Oh yeah, they could do that.
Because technically, if you think, when New Super Mario Bros. U, the special world, Star Road, if I'm not mistaken, that's right. No, Superstar Road. They brought back the propeller and the penguin suit from Wii.
Yep.
So I'm wondering if, I've been wondering if they will do the same thing here with Wonder, with U, where they bring back maybe the ice flower. The squirrel suit will be interesting. Oh, it's actually squirrel suit with the wall jump badge.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
That would be interesting. That might be the most broken thing ever.
Yeah, you glide onto a wall attached to it, jump up the wall, and then jump off it, and then
glide up.
Glide. Yeah.
The ultimate height gain, right there.
That might even be more broken with a badge that you get later in the game that ended up kind of being my main badge. Yeah, let's just say you don't have the best badge yet.
I mean, I assume
not by a long shot.
There are like several badges called. Okay, pardon me just bringing this up, but there are badges that are like different tiers. It's like elite badges. Similar to how like in the character post, they're like, you know, rarer character posts, a lot of that stuff. So definitely, I know for the fact that I probably don't have the best one, and it's probably a way more down the road. It's just like, oh wow, this actually helps a lot more than before, but we'll see.
Yeah, it's to the point where once I got it and realized what it does, it's like, oh, this is almost too good. I'm still gonna use it anyways.
Beautiful.
Yeah. Again, if you're not there yet, then I won't spoil it, but I guess for the people that have played it, I'll just like say the acronym for it. BSJ. That's what I'll say.
Backwards standing jump. Got it. Okay, thank you.
Dang it. Yeah.
It's just funny that the acronym mentioned is one letter away from the most infamous trick in Mario 64.
Yeah.
So I'm just like, you know what? Let me just.
Now I have an image in my head of like not just a badge, but like a wonder effect where you just end up doing BLJs.
What? Excuse me? I had to slide down my chair for that.
You know what? I mean, you know what BLJs are.
Yeah, I know, but at the same time, like, what?
But yeah, outside of that, I'll say the other badge that I ended up using the most is the sensor badge, because it'll detect when you're close to collectibles. And it made scouting, like after I rolled credits and I was replaying stages, it did make things quite a bit easier, but again, I think in subsequent playthroughs, I'm just gonna try to not use badges outside of the stages where it forces you to use badges.
Oh,
excuse me. Yeah, just to experience them without the additional assistance, because at that point it does feel more akin to like New Super Mario Bros. U in terms of like controls and feel at that point, if you don't have any sort of the additional moves that you get from some badges and that sort of thing. So, also, tip about the loading screens, like in between like loading up a stage for the first time and if you lose a life, you can just mash the jump button to make the level load quicker, just by like a little bit. Also, if you're loading into the stage for the first time, mash the jump button.
What's this speedrun?
And pay attention to the bottom of the screen.
I don't have my Switch with me, Emily. I only have my 3DS, still shiny hunting purple, so...
And actually, now that I've... now that I've actually loaded into a level in Wonder, have you messed with some of the control settings at all?
The control settings?
Yeah, so in the settings, you can tweak some things. For one, you can change which buttons are jump and dash, but there's only two options. Either Y-B jump, which is the default, or the old school B-A jump. So there's that. There's an interesting one relating to ground pounds. By default, you can do a ground pound the normal way of hitting down on the D-pad or the stick when you're in midair. And also, you can use ZL to do the same thing. Or you can change it to where only ZL works. And in my opinion, that's the better way of doing it. Once I kind of wrapped my head around that, because it took like a little bit, I just had to think like, okay, think as if you're controlling this like it's a 3D Mario game, because there you have to use the trigger to ground pound. Once I started thinking of it like that, it's like, this makes way more sense. Like, every so often in previous games would accidentally misinput a ground pound.
With a down button, I assume.
Yeah, thankfully, if you know what you're doing, you can actually cancel a ground pound by hitting up on the D-pad or the stick. If you're quick enough. But setting the ground pound to only be the left trigger makes accidental inputs essentially impossible unless you're really like have an itchy trigger finger. Also, some things in this game can also be activated with motion controls. I actually turn them off. Just because it's doing the same thing as using the right trigger. It doesn't need to be a thing.
Oh yeah, those things. I actually haven't turned them off yet, but admittedly, when the first batch I ever collected, I ended up just using the trigger because honestly it felt smoother for me and more natural at that.
Yeah. I guess one more thing that I want to bring attention to is the rumble setting. So just like Mario Odyssey, by default, it's set to normal, but you can turn it to strong, and I think it really does add quite a bit of extra tactility to the game. And also, there are some elements that use the musical abilities of the rumble, and I say that with air quotes, for those just listening, because it's not like big major use or anything. It's just when you realize the areas that the Joy-Con and Pro Controller make like actual tones instead of just rumble, it does add a little bit of extra something to the experience.
I see.
Also, you can make the flowers talk German, and it gives me a mild jolly. Because you can set the flowers to speak in different languages.
I mean, I assume so, considering that is you can change the language.
Yeah, but it can be changed independently from the system language,
So
which is nice.
More DLC, more unique text for the flowers. Oh dear.
Yeah.
I know people have modded the game to say some questionable stuff, but it'll be quite cool if Nintendo makes their own like unique things to say from the flowers.
Yeah. Yeah. That's another thing. What do you think about the flowers?
Indifferent.
Same. Same. It's like it's
Hi there, bye there.
yeah, like there are some spots where it's just like, okay, why are you here? But others, like I've seen some clips of that some people have posted on Twitter, and it's like, oh my gosh, some of the specific scenarios and like specific situations where there's a flower nearby a bottomless pit, and if you fall in the pit, the flower's like, you good?
I
So
told
it's like, okay.
you. I'm pretty sure someone knows what I'm talking about when I say that.
Yeah, it just feels like the flowers are there kind of for enough of a reason that I don't think they should be turned off. I mean, it's nice that there's the option, although it's kind of weird that you can't just like turn them off outright if they give you the option. Because you can only turn off either the voice or the text. You can't do both.
What?
I know there's some people that like they would probably want that, even if it just means that they're sitting there doing nothing. There's got to be some people out there that would want that. So give them the option to be wrong. Yeah.
Interesting. I didn't know that both cannot be turned off. Honestly, I'm like, as I said, I'm indifferent. I quite like some of the comical commentary that they do, and some of them are just like, I remember there was one that honestly cracked me up. I was like, smell the ocean air, and then as I was about to enter the pipe, oh, and dead fish.
Oh.
And I just cracked. I was like, bruh.
Yeah, and I will say there's almost like too many times where they say after a wonder effect, well, that just happened.
Oh yeah, no, that's the common catchphrase from these guys.
Yeah, or like, that just happened. I think kind of the
That's when
more
you
the
return
vibe.
English.
Yeah. Oh, but like even with that, it's not super egregious, I would say. I think people are kind of over exaggerating the like that aspect of the flowers, even though like yeah, at points it feels like it didn't need to say that exact same voice clip. Like there could have just been no flower, but they still put it there. Yeah.
It's fun though sometimes. It's comical. As I mentioned before, they do spread them out nicely. In my opinion, for certain levels, and then there's just other levels just like, please stop talking. It doesn't help as well that if you were playing a level just to get something collectible, it can really get annoying sometimes. I feel like.
Oh, yeah.
Not that I have yet to do that. It's just more so like I can see that being a problem.
Yeah, even if you're in the same level, just like running past the same flower, like just running past the same flower, it'll still keep repeating the same thing.
Or just the ultimate hack, turn off the words and then just put your volume to 0.
Yeah, you could just turn off the voice, even though it would still show the text. I feel like for a lot of people, turning off the voice would be better than the text.
Yeah,
because you could just kind of gloss over the text box.
Exactly.
So, yeah, it's nice that there's still the option for people to turn off the talking flowers to some extent, but it's like, why not go all the way and just, like, let people remove the flowers if they want? Even though I'm not one of those people, like, I appreciate the flowers to an extent. Still, I know there's people out there that just don't want them.
Walking flowers, about as strange as talking flowers.
Talking flowers. Oh my gosh.
Well, we can hit ourselves on that, but to close off this point, I mean, DLC for Mario game would be quite nice to see again after I think this might be the first one. I mean, if we haven't had a Mario DLC at all for quite some time on a platformer.
Yeah, which I still wish that they did something with Odyssey, but at the same time, Odyssey was already packed with content, so they didn't really have to do anything more than what they already did with Odyssey, but still, like, even just one more kingdom.
It's funny you mentioned that, because it kind of I actually want to bring this up, because someone put a post on Twitter that I screenshotted, because this one, honestly, I wouldn't say triggered me, it's more so it's like, it tickled my fancy. Let me see where it is. There it is. I love 100%ing hashtag Super Mario Brothers Wonder. I am not gonna say the person tonight because I don't want to dox him. I love 100%ing hashtag Super Mario Brothers Wonder on launch, but why isn't anyone talking about how there's no amiibo support, no diverse boss battles, no true online story mode, no challenge modes?
I know. Sorry, I know who you're talking about now.
No new Cape Claw. No useful rewards for 100% completion, no time attack leaderboards, no speedrun mode. My guy, the half of what you said, it wasn't in the other games.
Right. Yeah, in fact, now that I'm thinking about it, I'm scrolling back, I'm not seeing it, but I'm pretty sure, or it might have been a direct reply that I made to that tweet. Yeah. I'll just read it more or less verbatim. So aside from boss fights, the only point that I agree with is the challenges, because getting all golds in New Mario U's challenges was the reason why I spent so much time with that game. And the badges in Wonder are ripe for having extra spicy stages that we just didn't get a whole lot of, like, outside of the late game. Yeah, that's really the only point that I agreed with outside of the boss fights, because the boss fights are also kind of a weak point.
Ooh. And in terms of, like, I assume very, like, easy, I assume?
Not so much easy, because some of them are tricky, but I say that, but I never actually died on any boss fights.
LOL.
Yeah, even the final.
No, I'm just joking.
Yeah, even the final I did in my first shot.
Did you hear the joke I said?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, I know the games that this guy has played in the past, like actual games, not just like other games. Like, I know this person has played New Super Mario Bros. U because I watched this guy's guides for getting gold ranks on new use challenges.
Bruh.
Yeah, so like, he knows what previous games have and haven't had. So that's why it's like,
You're saying he's asking a bit too much.
Yeah, like, it feels like he's phrasing the tweet in such a way that it's like, oh, previous Mario games have had all of these things, where it's like, no. Like, at most challenges, maybe amiibo support with some titles. I do see the argument for, like, a true online mode. But look at 3D Worlds Online. Look at Mario Maker 2's online. That's why we don't have true online play.
As of now, as of now.
Yeah, New Game Plus, like,
Newer Super Mario
what?
Brothers. I like to point it, by the way. Newer Super Mario Brothers. We technically did that, where if you did 100% the game, then now the game says you can turn on hard mode, where any hit you take is an instant game over in the level, and you have less time.
Oh wow.
So I mean,
that's a fan-made mod, though.
yeah,
It's not like an actual official Mario.
I don't think Nintendo would do that, to be honest. Plus, and this is a conversation I kind of want to have with you on a future Bejeweled podcast. I don't think everything has to have paid DLC.
Yeah, I very much agree with that. I'm like, yeah, it would be nice for games like Pikmin 4 to maybe have a little bit of something extra, but like, the base game is already so feature-rich and content-rich that it's like, I'd be more than content replaying it, and at some point I do want to replay it. It's just that WarioWare and then Mario RPG come out this month, or next month, rather. So, I won't have too much time to replay older games.
Well, you won't. I might have, because, but then again, I've recorded so much stuff.
Yeah, not every game has to have DLC. In fact, it almost is more of a statement when a game doesn't have DLC, because that means they were confident enough with how the game launched that they don't have to do anything extra. What they shipped was a complete package, and in the case of Mario Wonder, I agree. Pikmin 4, I agree. I'm trying to think of other games that have come, like, released within the past year or so. Tears of the Kingdom, even, like, I was expecting DLC for that game to come out, not because I wanted DLC, more so just because that's what they did with Breath of the Wild. Yeah, like, before launch, they announced DLC. So I was just kind of expecting there to be DLC, but once that summer Nintendo Direct happened, it's like, oh, they're not doing DLC. And it's like, yeah, that's fair. They already charged $70 for it instead of $60. There is way more to explore and do, even though I've personally hit a brick wall with the game where it's just like, I don't want to play it anymore. I feel like I've played it enough.
Understandable.
To get my money's worth. Yeah. It's like, yeah, I haven't beaten the final boss, but like, I feel like I've gotten enough enjoyment out of the game, and whenever I've gone back to like actually do more exploring, it feels more like a chore than anything. So maybe I should just, like, at the very least, finish up all the shrines and go for the final boss. I should just do that. Even though I do know what the final boss is, because, like, at this point, I don't really care about spoilers for that game. So I watched the entirety of Scott the Waz's video on Tears of the Kingdom, and knowing that it's like, okay, he's gonna talk about the final boss. I don't care. Yeah, that's all to say, I agree with that sentiment.
I mean, as I said, I probably will want to discuss it in a future podcast, because honestly, with recent games that came out, not only this year, but over the past 12 months, it just feels as though that there's a very big statement when a game like says, you know what, there's no DLC needed, versus a game saying, oh, we need DLC. And when is it appropriate, when is it not? That is why I wanted to kind of bring this up in a future podcast, because honestly, this could be a very good topic to discuss. And just discuss like the different franchises as well, to see if whether the DLC move was the smart move or the completely wrong move.
Yeah, and I mean, there are some series that are kind of built off of and benefit from not just like paid DLC, but also just free updates. Like, that's the core backbone of Splatoon, is updates and DLC. Even though there was no paid DLC for 1, Splatoon 2 had the paid Octo expansion, and now Splatoon 3 has Side Order, which I think they said that's releasing, like, early next year.
I like how you completely ignored Studiopolis. Inkopolis.
Yeah, because it was just, like, such a nothing burger of an update.
That's why, like, it's quite funny you, like, ignored that. Because I understand why.
Yeah, like, why did they do that? And, like, put it on such a high pedestal.
Anything to see the Squid Sisters again, I don't mind. Honestly, I actually had to look at it. Honestly, I was like, oh, that looks cute.
Yeah, but at the same time, it's literally just a hub reskin, and most people will just hit L to bring up the menu and select the thing that they want to do. So, like, the hub reskin does very little. It's... Yeah, that's kind of questionable decision, but that's why I bought the DLC, like, earlier this year, just knowing that I'm buying this just for Side Order. I'm not buying it for Inkopolis. Inkopolis is just like a little bonus, but that's about it. Nothing more. It doesn't even really do much of anything for me because I never played the first Splatoon game because I never owned a Wii U. So it's like nostalgia for something that I just never had access to. So, yeah. But that being said, I do also think that DLC going forward with Pokemon is a good decision because then they don't have to feel like they have to make a new game every year or two. Instead of a new game, it can just be like a DLC. But that's coming from someone that is very much a Pokemon outsider and is just, like, reading other people's opinions on the internet.
Oh. Just curious, before I end on this point, did you see the very lengthy argument I had on someone on Twitter about the Pokemon DLC?
No.
Okay, good. Because let's just say I'm very irritated by that guy, and I don't care, honestly, that his opinion is way off the charts. Look, if people want to buy DLC, let them buy DLC and don't care about them, okay? Jeez.
Yeah.
It's like, this guy was like, you're just wasting your time, you should have a better life. Like, bruh, I just want to buy DLC, I don't care if it's me wasting money, I just want to buy it.
Yeah, like, it's fine to express one's opinion, but if someone is, like, going after other people for their opinions and what they spend their money on, that's a line you don't really cross.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's why I was so irritated, honestly. I tried to keep it as not liberal. I kept it as clean as possible on my conversation, but honestly, he was just getting way too ridiculous with his statements.
Yeah, it's fine to express opinions, but yeah, going after people for not having the same opinion or adjacent things is not good.
Yeah, that's why it's just like, ugh. Now overall, honestly, with SMBW, I mean, early stages still. I feel like in due time we'll probably do a podcast talking about the overall opinion once our recency bias dies down.
Oh yeah, and also being able to actually talk about late game stuff.
Oh, dude, I'm so sorry. For those wondering, like, I've already felt
okay.
bad knowing that I only did World 1, because boy, my YouTube stuff has been off the charts recently. As of recording this podcast, I have 5 games I am recording.
Yeah.
Or streaming. Like, you guys know 2 of them I'm streaming, of course. That's Sonic Superstars and Final Fantasy IV. I have 3 other games I'm recording. Now, granted, one of them is actually nearing completion, but still.
Yeah, you've been busy.
But that's not only just about YouTube. It's also about school as well. That's why it's like, wow. I mean, I'll be honest. I'm still enjoying the challenge, and I'm still easily able to keep my head above the water. But boy, when it comes to the not really as important stuff, it definitely means I don't have as much time.
Yep.
But hopefully, I will have the time to finish that up. Finish Super Mario Brothers All Wonder up. I guess once I finish up Sonic Superstars, I could probably finally do that. Which, by the way, Jiozak.
Yes.
Mind if I ask of you a request? Are you able to buy Sonic Superstars so you can play it so that we can discuss about it as well?
I mean, I could.
Because technically similar to Super Mario Bros. Wonder, Sonic Superstars kind of breaks the mold in the 2D Sonic realm.
Okay.
And I kind of want to see if we could conversate on that game, just so, well, A, we could also think about how, like, they did all the changes compared to, well, Wonder. And then B, at least I have more, like, my content for me to express.
Yeah, I can put it on my radar, and, yeah, okay. I'm gonna add it to the wish list on both my Switch and Steam, and if this is okay with you, I'm gonna hold off until Black Friday.
Yeah. I was expecting to say that. No worries.
Yeah. Just because, like, I've never fully played through a Sonic game, so...
Look at this guy. No, I'm just okay.
Yeah, so... I'll add it to both. Steam is probably gonna have a better deal, all things considered.
Probably, yeah, I agree.
So I guess with that, I can bring the perspective of someone who's basically never played a Sonic game before, playing Superstars.
Yeah, I mean, that would be a cool perspective to bring up. Because for me, I played, of course, 1, 2, 3 Mania CD. You haven't, so at least there's the ability to showcase that.
Yeah. Yeah, and I suppose in the meanwhile, just then I have something to base that off of. I could see what Sonic games are part of the Genesis Switch Online. I know it's like at least Sonic 2. Okay. And now that I think about it, I do have Sonic Mania on Epic Games.
Yeah, true. I got that. You did get it for free.
I got that for free. Yup. So, yeah, I guess in the between now and whenever we do that podcast and whenever it is that I end up playing Superstars, yeah, I can kind of at least like play those games for even just like a couple hours just to have some sort of basis.
I'll say you'll get quite a bit of content from just a couple of hours. When Steven, George, and Malmix did the first 20 on Sonic Mania, they got quite deep, actually. So I feel like with just a couple of hours, right, you're probably going to get pretty much I wouldn't say the full experience, but at least enough of an experience to give an opinion. And I think that's the same way with Sonic Superstars, in my opinion, so hope you enjoy that.
Yeah. Yeah, It's honestly kind of a thought that I've had for a while. It's like, I've never really touched Sonic, like any Sonic games, period. Like, I should change that. So, it's kind of a good excuse to take care of that anyways.
Of course, that was quite what I mean with Final Fantasy, so yeah, I agree.
Yeah, because I grew up with Mario, and when I was learning about how that like Sonic was a thing, it's like, oh, he was made to essentially be direct like antithesis of Mario. It's like super fast, a little edgy, like hip, cool, young. But it's like I like my Maro. So
I like my Morrow.
yeah, that's why I like, especially as a young kid, it's like I never really touched anything outside of like first party Nintendo games. But over time I realized, oh, I need to not do that. I need to be open to other games.
That's kind of like that was actually kind of like my goal when it came to making this channel, because I wanted to like be more diverse with what I play. So that's why I've been like diving into the Final Fantasy series, any indie games as well, just so I can have a better catalog of information.
Yeah, and like there's been a couple games that I've bought knowing that I'm not going to finish this. I just want to give it a go for a couple hours. Like in the case of SnowRunner, is do you know what SnowRunner is?
No.
The best way that I can describe it is like, think of an open world game, except you control trucks instead of regular like video game characters. And so you have to learn how to drive trucks. I picked it up because one of my older brothers was talking about how he was really getting into it. And this was around the same time that they added like multiplayer support, like multi-system multiplayer. So we were able to like play it together. So it's an interesting time. Anyone out there that wants a different take on an open world game, get SnowRunner. I think it's basically on everything. Obviously, you'll probably get the best price on Steam, but I know it's on Switch and PlayStation. At the very least, it might be on Xbox. I don't remember. It probably is. A different take on an open world game.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. With that said, that's gonna be it for our podcast. So our brothers wonder first impressions are done. I don't know what we're gonna do next time, honestly. I mean, we definitely brought up a few ideas near the end, but we'll definitely have to see in due time what ideas decide to spark up flashes of like, thoughts that we could bring up to the table.
Yeah, I know for sure I'm gonna pick up the new WarioWare and Mario RPG. You're probably not well versed in WarioWare, but definitely Mario RPG. We could like talk about that.
I could definitely talk about Mario RPG. I did a full playthrough of that, of course, on my YouTube. During their 25th birthday, actually.
Nice.
So I definitely have good knowledge about that game.
Yeah.
Well, you guys just have to see what we'll bring up next. See you then.